Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first Buncombe County Board of Elections meeting of 2025. Yes, yes, let us hope that it is a happy, happy New Year. Thanks for being here today. It's good to see so many people come out in such frosty weather to see what's going on down here at Board of Elections. Mr. Aceto is running a little late, so I'm just kind of killing a little time until he gets here because we need him for everything that we're covering on today's agenda. And I'm guessing that he's not going to have any issue with the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Without objection, we will approve the agenda for today's meeting. And hearing no objection, that agenda is approved. Everyone have a chance to take a peek at the minutes. Okay, I do want to wait till Steve gets here just to make sure that we get all 5 votes on that one. So we're just going to push that a little bit. The next item on the agenda is off, and I should, thank you all for being here. I did ask Mr. Whitney beforehand, and he told me that there is no one tuned in online. There was nobody tuned in online, and it must be because it's 2 o'clock on a Wednesday.
There's 2 now.
Now there's 2. Okay. Well, we do have virtual participants. We appreciate that because we stream all our meetings. All right, Director Duncan, the next item is office updates. And it has been a little while since we've been together. Do we have any updates?
Yes, so many of us took the 2 weeks off. We had some people in the office to keep things running, so that was fantastic. We've also had some of our staff members helping HHS in their housing program, so we were able to lend a few people to that that grant program, which has been really nice to be able to give back a little bit. And then, so my first day in the office was on Monday, and we were all here. We were all together. And so we've done 2 meetings on lessons learned. And we are planning in the next few weeks to take all of that, kind of distill it down onto what our priorities are for 2025 and make a plan to make all that happen. So that's been really productive.
And that's it.
That's it.
Must be holiday season. All right. The next item on the agenda is the main reason for today's meeting. For those of you who were not here at our last meeting, we had a presentation by a couple of gentlemen who were describing what the plans were for moving election services from 59 Woodfin Place back to 35 Woodfin Street. And during the, I really appreciate the time that the 2 gentlemen took, as well as their patience in dealing with our questions, comments, and expressions of concern. Today, we have an opportunity as a board to put together a list of concerns that we would like to share with county management about the move plans. And so, once Mr. Aceto gets here, we can really pursue this discussion in earnest.
Just one quick question.
Ms. Stein?
Have there been any changes on this map?
I went over to 35 Woodfin and gave myself a tour. It did nothing to allay my concerns. And in fact, when you walk in the doors, you immediately see that the priority is fitting as many people as possible into that building. And it would be nice to hear what the other priorities were. because that seems to be the dominant priority.
I do have kind of a, like an overview, that I can share if you would like.
Okay, I kind of want Steve to be here. I mean,
Okay.
I wouldn't plan to repeat my,
Yeah.
my bunkum. But,
I just had a question about the configuration. If it's okay to ask it now.
yeah, please.
And I think I know the answer to this, but on the second floor, looking at the right-hand side of the Board of Elections section in the light blue, I haven't seen that side of the building, but is there a panel of windows on that side of the building?
Yes.
And then on the bottom, which I guess would be facing west, is there a panel of windows there?
Yes, but it faces the garage. It's like,
It-
like.
Oh, it
like-
looks into a garage?
Yes.
Oh. That's,
A
the-
little bit of grass there, very little.
Well, it's like just a sidewalk between the two buildings, so it's very close.
and then on the left-hand side, that area, I'm assuming that area has to be open because there's a stairwell, an exit. Is that correct?
Oh,
Where
that
the
there's a door
lounge
there.
area is, where the fella described as the lounge area, the gray area to
gray.
the left.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why.
Which floor are you talking about?
Second. I'm assuming, I assume that's a stairway at the bottom left-hand corner.
That is a stairway, but it is election services access only, so those people.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh.
To that door there. See where the blue is and there's
Right,
the door?
right. Oh, I see.
That's
Yeah,
ours.
yeah.
The stairwell, access to that stairwell from there is election services only, but the stairwell will be accessible to anyone who has a badge, but they can't badge in to our area. So they can, just like this building, they can come up to the floor, but they won't be able to get in.
But that has to be an open area there because of the stairwell. That's what my assumption, but I don't know
know.
if that's correct. I assume that's the case.
Yeah, the question would be, is that a fire exit? If it's fire exit, then other people will have access to it.
Some, I see.
But, I don't know.
And then just so I'm clear, the two gray rectangular boxes underneath the absentee processing area, what is that, Corinne?
I think they're mechanical rooms, something
Yeah.
like that.
What, right in front of the stairway?
Underneath the absentee processing area.
Oh. There's
Yeah,
one
the-
on the right side too.
Yeah, they've got that marked electrical equipment. And then is I'm assuming, the square with the X in it, is that just like a supporting structure of the building or something? Between the two wings,
Oh, that is a mezzanine,
a mezzanine. Oh, okay.
yes.
So you can look down from the second floor down to
Kinda. There
first
is
floor?
a
Oh, okay.
roof of an expanded structure underneath it. That's how the building was originally built, where you could look over and see the front floor. But how they have reconstructed the first floor, they expanded offices out, so part of that mezzanine is covered. It's like you're looking down on the roof of a structure below.
Oh, okay, so that's non-usable space.
No, it's not
Yeah,
usable.
yeah. That's what I assumed.
I could use a little orientation too, again. When you talked about our area being by the garage, so what's the front door again? And how do I set up this floor plan to see it? I don't see an orientation that's helpful for me here.
Make sure that everyone agrees with me. Google Earth it.
It's on first floor. And it's the place where the doors go out both sides of the building.
And
So-
that's, so then this is the front door?
This is the front door. This is the parking lot. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This is the parking, what the public parking lot would be.
Wait, but
We would
but
park
you're
in the parking
basement here.
garage.
You're in the basement.
So go to the
You're in
first
the
floor.
basement right here.
Just so I can have a sense of where we are
Yeah,
when we walk
we
in.
need to be on first floor. Or what do they call it? Not ground floor, but first floor.
Oh, I see, because it looks different. Yeah. The doors actually look different. Okay, so this would be the public parking lot here. And they would
Mhm.
enter in this location.
Thank you.
You can also come in from this side too.
Right.
Right.
So if you parked in the parking garage, you could walk down here
Yeah.
through the courtyard and come in.
So the Marriott or whatever that hotel is back here. Is that correct? Isn't there a hotel back here?
There's the parking garage. I think the hotel's the next.
Over here. So it'd be
Yes.
over here.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
If
Yeah,
you've got
Woodfin's
your- if
right.
you've got your computer open, you could pull it up on Google Maps.
I think AK is doing that.
And I should know this, should remember this, but on the first floor, the blue rectangle assigned to the Board of Elections is a lobby area for the board.
That's like where we would meet candidates and things. And then we'd have there's the two seats, the two first seats are
Right.
also blue. That's our lobby.
That,
That's where
oh,
we
okay,
would,
okay.
yeah, do registration and like our basic services. Hey, Steve.
Welcome. They can call it a lobby, Glenn, but it does not look like a lobby. It does not feel like a lobby. It feels like a hallway. You'll see. If you go into 35 Woodfin, it's not locked. I mean, I helped myself and I gave myself a tour.
So is that,
It's really helpful.
that's not a separate room? I'm looking on the first floor with the,
Yeah, no, there's drywall there.
yeah,
My point is, when you walk in the doors, whether it's the front doors or the back doors of 35 Woodfin Street, you don't feel that you're in a lobby.
Right.
You feel that you have walked into a hallway
oh,
and you're trying to figure out where the heck to go. Now, I'm assuming there's going to be adequate signage to direct people. But the kind of feel that you would normally expect walking into a large office building, you don't get.
so they're
Because-
not
Because
gonna,
there are offices everywhere. There's no public space per se. There's no like space in front of the elevators, kind of. Everything is hallways and offices and cubicles.
so they're not gonna put, I don't know why I think this, but I thought they were gonna put a kiosk there or something like that.
That was considered, but based on this plan, it looks like it wasn't. Doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
Well, how are people supposed to know where to go?
They are
Or
going
is that-
to
is
drop
that-
signs from the ceilings.
I see. Hmm.
So that's one thing we could put on our request list, correct? If we wanted to have.
Well, I think we can provide a list of requests or want-to-haves, but I also want to compile a list of concerns that it's, I don't want to ask for something specific. I've got a real concern about the security of our space, for example. And I don't think it makes sense for us to be prescriptive about it. I mean, I want the folks who are in general services and facilities to come up with the plans. But I want to be able to articulate to them very, very clear, as well, articulate to the folks doing the planning as well as the county management. what our concerns are about this proposal. And my understanding is that the move date has been pushed to March. So we've got a little bit of time here. I'm not aware of any plans for 59 Woodfin Place, so from my perspective, this remains an option for election services. My opinion on that probably isn't nearly as important as that of county management's, but I think we just need to keep that in mind, that, bless you, that the status quo might not be bad. Ms. Brain?
In looking at all three floors here, I noticed that as far as I can tell, there's only 2 departments that are on all 3 floors. If I'm correct, and that's air quality and board of elections. They've managed to keep tax collection in one spot. They've managed to keep tax assessment in one area. I don't know why they couldn't manage to keep board of elections in one area instead of bouncing us around on 3 floors, and it's not even directly up and down. You know, we're here on the 2nd floor, we're over here on the 1st floor, we're over here downstairs. There's no direct connection, and like
Right.
you, I have a concern with security,
Yeah.
and we're going to be taking ballots up and down into areas where other departments are, other people are. It doesn't look like a secure setup, or actually an efficient setup.
And then there's Canoe Lane.
Hmm?
And then there's Canoe Lane, our warehouse, which is in another city. When it comes to moving things around and security, it's just another element of risk.
Could we go on and begin our work on the security piece and
Yeah,
kind of detail
I
that
think,
out?
and I hate to put too much pressure on Ms. Moore, but you are our official thought transcriber. So this, I'm talking something that's not minutes. I'm talking about something that we would like to share with folks in the county who can help us understand the wisdom of this proposal. And one of the things I've talked about this a little bit with Director Duncan. And one of the things that I'm hoping this board gets is a meeting with county management where county management will sell us on this proposal. Steve, I mentioned to our colleagues that I gave myself a tour of 35 Woodfin, and all it did was deepen my concerns about the proposed move. The building's open. It was no problem just opening the front door, walking in, walking around, taking the stairs up. I didn't take the stairs down. Should have done that. Should have gone down to the basement. Didn't do that. But anyone wants to do that, there doesn't seem to be any constraint. Anyway, let's start off with the security piece. Director Duncan, what do you have?
I would love to give a summary if.
Oh, please,
that
please,
is-
please, please.
is
That
okay.
would be nice to get a
Yes.
framework.
So I'm kind of wanting to take this from a pretty broad perspective of what do we want for this department? What do we think is best for this department? And then I kind of want to take you a little bit through where we have been, what's happened over the past few years, and what my perspective is on what I think that we need. So first, my belief through all of this, from 2020 till now, even knowing all of the things that happened, I still believe that our ideal setup is all in one building that is centrally located. And Wake County has this, and Catawba County has this, and other elections departments have it too. Those are just two very differently sized counties that have this setup, that love it, and it just demonstrates that it's possible. It definitely can happen. And the reason why a facility built like this makes sense is that elections departments have an expanding and contracting personnel component, so we get really big during elections. We have a large volume of poll workers that we have to train by law. We're the biggest demand on training in the county. We have a ton of different functions, and we change throughout the year, so there's a lot of variance in the things that we do and our physical structure throughout a 4-year period. So we do registration, candidate filing, we have board meetings, and our board, unlike other boards to my knowledge, is a working board, and we're quasi-judicial. So we have functions that other boards don't have. We also do petitions. We provide IDs. We generate IDs. We give voter information. We do absentee by mail, early voting, election day voting, provisionals. We certify elections. There's a lot of different functions that we do that are very different from each other. We know that election laws are changing constantly, and the trend has been requiring more, not less, more resources and more space. Think the photo ID, an obvious one that has happened recently, but we're also considering signature verification, so that's more people and more equipment. That's a trend that we definitely can't ignore. That is absolutely happening. We have large amount of equipment, and it needs to be constantly maintained and secured. We've got population growth that continues. And I think above all these things, we are an agency that has to do everything very quickly and very accurately, and that requires efficiency. So that's being neat and having our processes laid out in a way that we can do them well. We are also under the public eye, rightfully, and our security and the ability to display that we have integrity is very important. So having control over our structure, control over how we do things, control over our customer service is important, I think, to running a good elections office. And that's not just for Buncombe County, that's any elections office. For us here in Buncombe County, we have moved a ton. Now that's not isolated to election services. Lots of other departments have done it, but we have done it a lot. Jake, I think you remember when we were at 189 College. I don't know where our warehouse was then. It wasn't there. Where? At Allport. We already have been at 35 Woodfin. So there are, I think Victoria's here, so she can talk to you about that setup and how this one is different from that setup. And we had, I believe our warehouse it could have partly been at Allport as well, but also at Irwin Hills. And then the setup that we have now is the best that we have ever had. Being here in this building and at 50 Cox Avenue. Then we were moved to 77 McDowell Street, and we used the old Matthews Ford building, which is no longer there anymore, and Allport for our warehouse. Then we were lucky to get the 50 Cox Avenue renovated, and we moved all of our election day equipment in there, which was really needed. We were not in a good situation before. Definitely not. So we were very, very happy to get that upgrade. And then 77 McDowell was found to have mold issues. And as soon as they found that, to the county's credit, they immediately moved us. So we got kicked out of that building and moved to the warehouse temporarily. And that happened in April of 2021 is when we moved to the warehouse. And then this area was modified for us here at 59, and we opened to the public in November of 2021. So since 2022, basically, we have been in this location, and it's worked pretty well. This boardroom is absolutely not ideal, definitely not. We still have problems with finding training facilities. We still have problems with room here when we are at our biggest. So this is far from perfect, but it is the best scenario that we have been in. So when we moved to 59, we moved here, and then in FY24, which is 2023-ish, we had in the county commissioner's approved CIP plan almost $18 million for that standalone facility. I thought everything was excellent and amazing, and I was so happy about that. But later on, that got removed, and I was not consulted about that. I found that as a surprise. And that was my first time of being really frustrated about the facilities planning. And so in January of 2023, we started giving a second round of data. We had already given one contractor data about election services. I'm not sure what happened with that, but at the beginning of 2023, we started all over again, started giving data again. About our needs in general. And then in June that year, we were started to ask getting information for the possibility of moving to 35 Woodfin. That also was a surprise to me. I called a meeting with Scott and Robert and Mike Mace, who were all at the last meeting to discuss my concerns, because I felt surprised by the project and I didn't agree with it. I felt like I hadn't been included in any discussions, and I expressed to them that I wasn't in support, and I wanted to know what the options were. Okay, but I don't like this. What can we do? And it was expressed that there just wasn't a lot of flexibility, that upper management was in charge of this project, and these departments were moving to 35 Woodfin, and that was the plan. So I made sure that my county supervisor, who was DK at the time, understood that I felt that efficiency, security, and customer service would decline at this location, and I still feel that's true. So where are we now? We're in 2025. We have given the county tons of data and done a lot of tours and talked about all kinds of things. We know that there is a housing project that is going forward on Cox Avenue, and I think that that's driving these changes. The plans for that are at Cox Avenue and the Allport building, so that affects us because we have our warehouse, we have the Allport building, and we have this location. So that means that there needs to be, if they're going to tear down Allport, there has to be, and 50 Cox, that stuff has to go somewhere. So that is the Canoe Lane project. Mm-hmm. So that's where that got born out of. That is obviously much more in its infant stage than the 35. 35's nearly an adult now. So 35, Canoe Lane is just in planning stage. 35 Woodfin is almost done. So 35 Woodfin's nearly complete. We're scheduled to move there in March. They have done a lot of work. The planning team, Scott Metcalf, has done a lot of work to accommodate us within the restrictions that have been handed to us. So like we discussed in the last meeting, we requested having that second floor piece where the touchdown spaces are, be hours, and we do have some suggestions on that still, that we think maybe are actually reasonable requests, because we feel like requests of changing the building structure that's gone. But you know, we asked for those things. We asked for offices, because we are in offices now. This would be moving some of us to cubicles and smaller offices if you have an office. And those sorts of things were denied. So we asked for a lot of things. We got some,
What did you get?
but not everything.
What did you get?
So we asked for having the candidate coordinator area in the lobby. So, you know, we're the only department that has an extra space down there in the lobby area. We also wanted those election services only rooms that come off of the boardroom. So we were able to get those. We emphasized security the whole time. So they built the walls that they built on the second floor so that that it's a limited area. It won't fit everyone during an election, but some of it is election services only.
Okay.
Some things are happening now where right now we have full control over badge access. When we go to 35 Woodfin, that will go through IT. So we'll have to do it. So there's some processes that will slow down too. And I am guessing that there are other things that will happen like that. Again, because we're sharing and we're not in full control of everything. I think there's things that I haven't thought about that will come out that way too. So I'm hoping that all of my staff has seen floor plans. Some have done a preliminary tour, but we're hoping to have a tour in the next few weeks, which the board will be invited on, where we'll see it nearly completed. So the offices have any of the sheetrock type stuff is complete now. So now it's the cubicles construction that we're waiting for to see what the actual space would be. If we are going to move there, which is our current plan, is we will need to go through, see where everyone's going to be, and figure out if there's furniture needs and things like that result from moving. So, and that's when we can really start looking at how we have to change our operations to fit this space. I think that what I'm hoping for this meeting is to come out with exactly what Jake is talking about, a list of concerns so that we document in another way our concerns about this move, and also trying to understand the long-term plan. I think that's something that I've been most frustrated with. I am happy to make a sacrifice if I am behind the reasoning, and I just haven't been able to get myself there with this project. There's the drive with the housing projects, so that is a reason. There is also we're a really in-person department, but other departments have done a lot of remote work, and so there is the argument that our footprint is smaller, and so we shouldn't be spread all over. Those are two arguments that have been given to me. I don't know what the plan for this building is. I have asked many times over the past 2 years, and I don't have an answer for that. So I know you guys are going to ask that. So I don't have an answer. I haven't been able to get an answer for that. So I'm hoping to understand. I think that this discussion is very good because I think that it will bring up various concerns, and I think that there are ones that the board will be good at advocating for, and the public if they understand what what our concerns are, and so putting them in, you know, a clear document, I think would be beneficial to us.
Ms. Duncan, can I ask you a question, clarification question? When you were discussing the footprint part and that this department has more people working face to face than other departments, did I hear that correct?
Oh, I mean that we are a fully in-person department
Okay, so why would our footprint be smaller?
as a county, not election services.
Got it.
But yes.
All right.
Corinne, why, as you said, we're a working board as opposed to some other boards in the county. In that case, why has it been all this time before the board actually got a look or got any input into this? Why isn't the county making an effort in that way?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but I have been frustrated with communication on the project. And, you know, I feel that I've been letting you know about the project all, you know, along, and feeling like I didn't have options, that this is just what we had to do. And so, this board requested having more information, which was fantastic. But I agree. I feel like it would have been nice for everyone to very early in the process have more input into what we were doing. And I am sorry if it took me too long to have the board.
I think part of the challenge is something that you mentioned, and that is seeing how this proposal fits into a larger scheme. I'm guessing that there's a strategy that the county wants to pursue with respect to office space. I don't know what it is, and that's a problem. This board needs to know what the county's plan is and how this squares with it, so that we're not looking at another move in another couple of years or something like that.
Well, based on county history, you might be looking at another move in a couple of years.
Right, no, I appreciate
their
that. And that is part of my concern. Director Duncan did a good job of outlining the string of moves that have occurred over the past, 15 years anyway. And not long ago, there was a vision that had been shared with the board. It was county management's vision to erect a building that would house the entirety of the operation. I understand the reason for the change. But when the plan was originally made to construct a new office building over at 50 and 52 Cox Avenue, there was a plan. The county had some plans on what they were doing with office space. I'm just real curious to see what those updated plans look like and how what is going on with election services, as well as the other groups that are being assigned to 35 Woodfin, fits into that. As a board member, I'm perfectly happy staying put. And if we're going to move, I want it to be to something better. And I am
This is not
wholeheartedly opposed in moving to a space that's inferior to what we currently have. Now, I can be sold, but nobody's tried to do that yet. Mr. Cito.
Mr. Quinn, if you covered this and I was gone, I'm sorry. Trying to get here was like trying to cross the Mexican border.
Go in which direction?
Yeah. It was quite an experience. What do you want this board to accomplish today? What do you want this board to accomplish today? What are you thinking?
What I'm thinking is that at our last meeting, we had a presentation from those two gentlemen. They gave us a lot of information. We had a lot of questions. And actually, as AK did such a good job documenting, at that meeting, we had questions and concerns. And what I want to do is document those questions and concerns for our benefit, but especially for the benefit of county management. Because I still see an opportunity to take whatever plans may exist and make them better for election services. I don't know about the other departments, but my focus is on election services. So that's it. I mean, what are the questions that we would have for county management? What are the concerns with the plans that have been presented to us?
What do you see happening? And give me 4 or 5 chess moves down the road. What do you see happening after I'm hearing you say that we're going to go on record with specific concerns.
Right.
And that strikes me as being a pretty good objective for this meeting. I won't hold you to it, but what are you thinking about going forward? What are next steps? Give me 4 or 5 more chess moves.
Oh, okay. What I'm hoping to do is engage county management on this topic of the move. And as I suggested a little while ago, I feel the need to be sold on this proposal. There's a proposal before us. It's been described in some detail by the 2 gentlemen who put the plan together. And I still don't know what we are getting out of this. It seems like we're moving for the sake of moving, which is never a good idea. There needs to be something that we are going to obtain that we don't have in order for this move to make sense to this board member. And so I'm hoping that by putting together a list of questions and concerns that we have and sharing that with county management, we can then meet with county management and discuss these questions and concerns, having given them the benefit of seeing them in advance, giving them the opportunity to prepare responses so that we can have a fruitful discussion. Because right now, we're being asked to buy a pig in a poke. And I, for one, am not a fan of such a thing. So I want the communication with county management that we have not had up to this point. And the objective of the communication is a superior outcome for election services than what I see in the current plan.
Well, if I may, I want
Please.
to offer one further thought, and then I'm going to get out of the way so that you can accomplish your primary objective, which I think is a very good one. Get up to 30,000 feet and look way out in front and look back. We answer to an elected board, in a sense, if you don't count the state board. But as far as who holds our physical facilities fate in their hands, it's an elected board. And we can march back through the history of that and see that that the facilities plan always reflects a current political objective, which can change on a dime, and it does. And that is not a bad thing. That's why we elect people. So I don't have anything ugly to say about that, other than that, thinking as a board, it challenges our long-term, because we have a longer time horizon. I think Corinne did a marvelous job of summarizing what's different about this and why it matters. A, the precision that our work requires, that's different from other boards, and B, our public that we're very much in the center of the public's attention, and those 2 things demand a different kind of facility, and we cannot expect the facilities planners to fully grasp that. Obviously, they have not, and they never will. It is up to us to think long-term about how do we get out of harm's way as an organization. So obviously, the immediate thing is to get on the record with concerns that distinguish our organization and also address specifically this plan. They need to hear from us. But I think we have a marvelous opportunity as a board to begin to speak into what future boards are going to deal with. We're part of a political organization. It's a good thing, not a bad thing. So it's not for today, probably not for today's discussion, but we definitely have an opportunity here. And, I can't think of a better group to try and articulate that. I'm not sure who the audience is for that. The fact that the Canoe Road property is being dangled out there, is a, that sounds enticing, but, we don't know where those political priorities are leading. I mean, there was a time here in the 60s when half of downtown was torn down to make room for the hospital. And all those nice people got displaced to the projects. And that was a political priority of the day. And then it shifted. And then something else came along. And that's the way it's always going to be. And because we have elected officials and they have to respond politically to what's going on around them. And that is a good thing. So, I'll get out of the way. I want to hear what you want to do today about getting on the record. I think it's wonderful. But I'd like to hear from you also about what are you thinking 2 or 3 meetings down the road? How do we position ourselves to get that long-term plan into place that addresses those 2 critical things that Corrine brought up for the next board and the next board and the next board after that? So thank you very much. And I'm so glad I got here. Gracious.
We're glad you got here too, Steve. As you looked at this plan, and as you'll recall our discussion from December 18th, did you have any particular concerns that you'd like to see shared with the powers that be?
Oh, you're me personally?
Yes, sir.
I think that my concerns center the public access, ease of access, and also the need to maintain a critical space during elections. And also, and third is, I know we have other functions that, we have candidate functions, we have reporting functions. There's a lot of other functions that go on here that they go on so smoothly that nobody notices them. So, but I didn't see specifically how all of that fits here, other than I think your candidate reporting function was moving to the lobby area, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, I just hadn't really heard that concern. I mean, you're doing it. This sounds to me like, Corrine, you're thinking through these functions in a really effective way. So thanks very much. Someday I wanted to have the discussion, and really I wanted to hear what the chairman had to say about, was elaborating on why is this different, and how does that affect, why are we different, what is our objective, and how does it affect this plan? So those are the things that I came up with as I was thinking what's the protecting the critical space, and I'm hearing you're on that, and also facilitating the public access to the things that we do that are always public facing, and I think you're on that too. So
Would you
may your
include-
tribe increase.
Would you include in the first one the security component, or should that be separate?
Yeah, Sally. I think that our security is kind of peculiar, and we have to kind of express why it's different, in that it's not necessarily like what existed there in terms of families and
Right.
those kind of conflicts.
Right.
That if we're not careful, we could get into a sort of an intimidation scenario where people are uncomfortable with us, but we're not the only ones who have that security concern. I mean, the whole country is going through trying to balance that out right now. The difference between transparency, accessibility, and physical security. I mean, that conversation is just roaring.
Well,
And-
I meant more about the 2 things you mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
This you talked about the confined or the restricted space that's out, that needs to be
Yeah,
ours.
the critical
Does
space.
that include the security pieces that would be specific to us when you say that, or should we add that as a third?
Yeah, thanks. I think when you define the space, then you can have the conversation about security.
All right.
And that's, and see, what vulnerabilities are, and what does transparency look like when you define that space, and then you put it in this building, then the security needs are, that's the next step.
Right, got it.
That's,
That's in the outline.
Yeah.
For the two, got it.
Ms. Brain, did you have?
Yeah, one of the things that I see in this plan, I keep looking at it, I'm going, okay, much of what you're gonna have to do, you're not gonna be carrying up and down the stairs. So you have a stairwell over on this side, but equipment is not going up and down the stairs.
Correct, yes.
And
Elevator.
a lot of heavy ballots are not going up and down the stairs. Where are your accesses to going up and down in this building? And they're not right beside our space. We have to go through other spaces, other departments, to get to space where we can go up and down, just to get to the locations. And in a time when people are watching elections with the idea of integrity, it's like, I can see all kinds of scenarios where people are going to say, but how do we know when you're going up and down this hallway, something doesn't change? Because we don't have control of all of that space.
And because we don't have exclusive use of this space.
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to. I can understand the desire to use space as efficiently as possible, which argues against the exclusivity. But there are
But I
other
see
concerns.
some exclusivity in this plan.
Right,
There are several departments that are contiguously located.
right. Oh, I think your point is very well taken,
like-
that we're on all 3 floors.
We're on all 3 floors.
Right, right.
I mean, so is air quality, and permitting is on 2 floors. And I can see how some of these departments work together. Permitting and environmental health and planning, maybe. Some of these may have some interactions, but which departments in this plan are we interacting with on a daily basis?
None.
The only one that I see is communications. And that can be done on the phone.
Or email, right.
And I don't see a way, as you were saying, if we go over and look at this space, I don't see how seeing it in person is going to make it any better, because we're on 3 floors, we're up and down the halls, we're talking about access, and it just looks not just complicated, but really inefficient and really not very secure. And as Corrine says, we bring in a lot of people a couple of times, whenever we have elections, we're going to have a lot of people coming in and out that these other departments don't have necessarily. I mean, volumes, not just people coming in and out every day, but a huge volume at one time.
that's a bullet point right there. And it's the volume that we distinguish from other departments, and that it's not happening all the time. When it happens, it's a wave that shows up. It's a rogue wave.
And it's not like, well, we can spread this out. We can't. We have to do it then.
Right.
It's not a,
Yeah, you're going to have spikes in it. You're not going to have.
If you can put numbers with that, I don't know that you can, but just some idea of what happens to the, what is the sudden peak demand for access and traffic in the spaces that have been identified? What will that look like? How many people are going to be in the corridor? How many people are going to be coming up and down the stairs? How many people in the elevator? And for how long? if you can pull that off. That's a tough one, I know, but that's part of getting on record with objections, so that when it happens, we don't have to say, "I told you so."
Or we will be able to say, I told
Right.
you so.
What she said.
Well, not that that's going to change anything,
Right.
but it will help set up what ought to come next in terms of a longer-term solution.
So some of the concerns that I see very clearly, like especially if we're comparing our current situation with the 35 situation, is that I am unclear how the modular shared boardroom is going to work. I don't think the lobby is adequate for our customer, especially with sharing. We don't have a place to do early voting for municipalities, so usually for a municipal election, we have an early voting site at our, or sorry, we have, yes, the early voting site at our office. We can definitely have an early voting site somewhere else, but as you all know, we have had trouble securing locations outside.
And that usually is additional expense.
It will absolutely be an additional expense because it can't be us. We'll have to hire people, and we, might be a place that we have to rent.
It's another bullet
but
point.
So I see difficulty
Well,
with that.
and that is an expense that would have to be passed on to the municipality, would it not?
Yes.
Yep.
So they might have an interest in this move proposal as well.
And then we've talked a lot about security and efficiency, and one of our staff members brought up exactly what you just brought up, Marianne, just as one example. There are many, many, many examples of efficiency problems in this building, and this efficiency and security almost always go together in our case. But yes, it's not secure and it's not efficient to move around so much, and it can lead to errors.
Can you be more specific about that? Just, we're talking about, the ballots would all stay in one place.
Well, we
Not
wouldn't be able to.
necessarily.
So think about absentee by
Right.
mail. So we process them upstairs. We
Right.
have a whole area for absentee processing. Those ballots, when they're ready for the board, have to be brought down
Down.
to the
Boardroom.
boardroom through, all of those floors.
Right.
Right now, it's completely secure. No one else has access.
And the reason it would lead to errors would be,
What if you had some issue moving between those buildings, and you set your bucket down on a shelf to tie your shoe, and you left an envelope or something, right? Like and we can make processes to make sure that
Right.
we
minimize
can, the
risk.
numbers that are here, but
right,
that's more stuff,
work, right.
more
Yeah.
things.
Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, Mr.
I-
Cito.
That's another distinguishing mark is that the optics are so important to us as opposed to others. The fact that you are going back and forth between spaces with a box of ballots, it's not that you might drop one or lose one. It's that it creates the impression
Right.
that of insecurity. That other people have access to something in that transition that they otherwise would not. So part of our bullet point is that we forfeit public confidence by not being able to control the movement of the documents in a critical space. In other words, once something goes up the corridor, and the question is, well, who could have touched it?
Right.
And now we have to prove a negative, that nobody touched it. And that is I think that's a critical observation, is that we have to be able to move documents and people in a way that there's never a question of somebody having inappropriate or unauthorized access. And that's something that makes us very different from everyone else who's occupying this building. And when we talk about security, we use that word in a different way than other people. Security means that the public has confidence that we have got control over access to election documents and people, and that no one else can get in that space, so that we don't have to prove a negative. Oh, it's okay, nobody got to it. Well, show me.
Show me, right.
So
Prove
good
it.
luck with that. And they need to understand that. And
Well,
we
they
go
also
back
need
to
to-
what you said earlier about the municipal elections. There's a stakeholder that is going to have an unexpected, they're going to get a bill for services that they've never gotten before. And that needs to be on record with as a concern to the commissioners, because they're not going to come back to us. They're going to come back to the commissioners. Why did you make our election more expensive? And
they're gonna
that's a
come back
bullet
to the
point. We don't
commissioners.
want to make other people's, for our stakeholders, we don't want to make their elections more expensive. So that's two places for the bullet point. One is the peculiar aspect of our security that we need to keep the public's confidence by not providing any opportunity for unauthorized access, so that we don't have to prove a negative. And second is that we don't want unexpected consequences to other stakeholders, such as municipalities, that are suddenly going to find out that their election is more expensive than what they budgeted, and they're going to want to know why.
And this comes back not necessarily on us. When you hear about election integrity issues, it's going to be the county. It's going to be, they're going to say Buncombe County, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be just the people in this room. It's going to be the county. And they'll be in the limelight for that one, and it hasn't been very pretty in a lot of places
Whereas it's been fine here
so far.
because we have had the space and the processes to maintain the integrity and maintain the confidence. And when you've got it, you got to work like the dickens to maintain it. And that's a lot of what's at stake in this.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention one thing about the workspace. It seems to me like March is pretty close at hand, so the two things that are either going to happen is that we get to stay here, which I think is the optimal situation. But just one point of clarification, does the county own this building, or the state does not own it? Okay, so they
The
don't.
county owns 35 Woodfin.
It owns, okay.
And this one, too.
Right, I mean,
59.
I was talking about this building, not 35 Woodfin, but
Oh, yes, Interchange is owned by the county.
county, okay. It used to be Diener in here, and I didn't know whether that was a state-owned building or not. Anyway, it just seems to me, looking at the floor plan here, that it's just, and I haven't been there since, so I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, but it seems like it's just too small a space for the number of employees you've got in here. As I recall, the cubicles are all 8 feet by 9 feet. Or that's what the fella said, I think, at the last meeting.
The spaces, yes, the office spaces and the cubicle spaces would be smaller than what we currently.
So there comes a point, and this gets into something that I really don't know much about, but there just comes a point, and it's hard to persuade somebody of this, but there comes a point where people are so crammed together in a space that's going to have very little natural light coming in, that you're just going to have an unpleasant work environment, which leads to inefficiencies in the work and the kind of work that's done with the attention that the staff has to pay to the details of an election just strikes me as leading to a level of inefficiency and mistakes that you probably don't have here. Even though this isn't a huge space, it is spread out along 2 long corridors. So in terms of what can be done in the next couple of months, if you go back to the county and they say, we're not moving, this is what you've got, what you can hope for is maybe to persuade the county to spread the office into that gray area that's called flex shared space. I don't know if that's possible. I don't have any idea, but it seems to me like you just need a bigger space for the permanent staff that works here, plus what goes on during elections.
I agree, and also I think what you said, Mr. Schultz, kind of reminded me about what our goals are and what's realistic here, and that, yeah, the plan is that we will be moving in March. If we can elucidate our concerns, though, and the big, those, things that Steve is talking about, 3 or 4 big components that's going to be a problem, maybe we can persuade them to let us stay here. And to me, that would be the hope that I would have today. And then we get a chance to talk about the future at another place. But we're talking 2 months. It's no time.
Can you come up with like 5 bumper stickers?
We've got 3 of them. We've got the
I mean,
optics about
yeah,
losing
give us
public
5 bumper
confidence.
stickers.
Yeah,
That will fit on the back of a Subaru station wagon, which is
Right.
very important here.
absolutely.
Because that's who drives our
That's what I drive.
decision making. Absolutely. So we'll use your car as a
We
backdrop.
got the expense to devote the municipalities. We have the expansion of staff and what that looks like and what the concerns are around that. There are many concerns, but that whole
Well, that will also affect other departments.
it
on those
certainly
times
will,
of
all
year.
of that. But that expansion, especially around the potential for more mistakes, access, again, ballots and secure private things are going to be passed around a lot more. There's not going to be an opportunity for the overflow staff to come into the boardroom when it's empty to do their work. They're going to be in the shared space, which is, again, going to be a problem.
That's
So-
a good point. This space is used a lot.
Well, yeah.
I know because I come in days that aren't Tuesdays. And it's like, wow, the place
So
is
those
full
are
of folks.
3, and
That's
I
another
don't know
bumper
what else.
sticker, use
Yeah.
of the boardroom.
Right, so we got reuse of the boardroom.
Yeah.
And then we have the municipality, the absentee ballots and what the expenses might be. And then we also have, of course, the optics of the election itself and what the concerns are around that. So there's 3 out of 5.
Yeah, give me 2 more bumper stickers and we're done.
Well, I'd like just to follow on Mr. Schultz's last observation, which I thought was right on point. It is an inferior working space than is currently available to election services staff. And
with
it
that-
will impair efficiency. And the reason it will impair efficiency is because it will impair morale. This is a high-performing group that has never let the community down.
Yes, and I promised I'd get out of the way. I lied. I'm sorry.
No. Steve, we don't ever want you. You're never in the way.
Okay. I'm sitting there thinking about Glenn as he was developing his bumper sticker. The answer is why is now different? Because we've been moved around, quote unquote, successfully for how many years now? The difference is 75% turnout. And a lot of things should drive that in the commissioner's thinking and our thinking. That's what's new, is that we want to sustain that level of community confidence and engagement. That has never happened. That is unprecedented. Anybody who wants to fix this thing that ain't broke ought to be thinking about that. How did we get to 75% and how do we stay there?
Right.
Or
And
beat
with
it?
an increasing population,
Wi-
ever increasing population in this
Yes,
county.
and
That's
a very
different.
diverse population.
Yes.
So how do you keep this? How do you keep what's in that? The level of confidence, the level of accessibility, the level of transparency. 75% turnout or bust is the how do we
error
get to that?
margin.
How do we keep that? How do we keep from endangering it by an inadequate facility?
Corinne, the space on the first floor, you said that's where you're gonna be, at least at this point, planning to do candidate filings.
So
No.
we can do all the small ones there, definitely.
All the small.
I think, well, I say definitely, but I actually haven't seen that space. It's in use right now. But we would have to reserve another room to do big filings. Because only, 1 or 2 candidates can be in that room at the same time.
What does that really look like? Do we have times when there are more than two candidates filing at one time?
Yes, so that's something that has been changing though. So we used to be able to predict all the candidates would come in on the first day and the last day of filing.
Got it.
And we would have their families here, they'd want to take pictures, a whole entourage, it was a big deal. Lately, we have not experienced that. It's been more, they come in here and there, and we've been able to handle it
Like
that
more
way.
of a trickle.
Usually, we set up in the conference room here with photo booths and all of that, those things. And so we would, in our December filing period, would want to have a bigger space than that. So we would reserve one of these
Now,
conference
that was
rooms.
really my question. Is this space going to be sufficient for what you have experienced you have to do?
Not at all times.
Well, then that's another stakeholder we've got is the parties and the people coming in from the parties
Parties and
that
candidates.
need to
Yeah.
come in and make
true.
these filings.
Something that this building doesn't, that there's not a difference between these two, but that has always been a concern for me, is growth. Right now, we're this, we fit as many people in this building as we could this election. That the same would be at 35, you know, I think, and all departments are growing, not just elections.
Although a lot of them work from home.
Well, I mean, that's another thing that I feel like we deserve an answer on is the county's stance and strategy on that.
Right.
That's something I disagree with, but that's just my philosophical opinion about how workplaces work. I think that we are more efficient, we have better bonds, we are more innovative when we come and we see each other in person and more willing to help each other and all of those kind of things. But that may not be the county's strategy, or maybe, you know, maybe that hasn't been solidified. We know that IT has gone nearly fully remote.
But then they're staring at screens all day anyway.
Yeah, like some it works for.
Yeah. Planning, like that too, so.
Or it could work for. I could see scenarios that it works for.
So are you saying that if we propose to stay here, we're not going to get away from the
Correct.
expansion issue?
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
proposing to stay here would be to avoid the current scheduled move.
Right.
That's not going to be good
Right.
in preparation for planning for something better. Am I wrong in that?
No, I think you're correct on that. And
Right,
one of the
but
things
we're-
that I'm hoping to hear at some point is some description of the larger picture.
Yes,
Why is this
because
trip
it makes-
necessary?
Well, yeah.
Exactly. It makes sense to us, but I have obviously had a lot of pushback. So if we camped here, if we had a sit-in at interchange, it would not be well received, and we would damage. I believe we would damage a lot of relationships. So it would have to be. It would have to be worth it, and that's why it's important that we understand why we are sacrificing.
Right. The thing that we need more than anything else right now is communication. Because we don't understand what's driving all of this for election services.
So
And
why
if we
can't
did,
the
I
board
think we could
just
understand it better.
say, why can't we write a letter to the county manager and ask for this meeting? So that we can understand what they're talking about. We can shoot it all day among ourselves, but
Well, but
do we have any power to do that?
Sure. In asking for the meeting, I want to be able to relate questions and concerns that we have, so
Right,
that when we
sure.
do meet,
No, I get that, but if we want answers about the larger term plan,
right.
that's, to me, not our concerns about this move. It's what is the plan,
Well, see, that is, okay, we've got questions and concerns.
right?
I still want to be sold on this move.
Exactly.
To heck with the questions and concerns.
Exactly.
Why are we doing this in the first place?
Right.
How does it fit into the general scheme?
So if they come, that's what I want to make sure that they know that we're
Oh,
asking
they're
for.
going to know that. Because even if they come in and they aren't prepared to address it, we're going to ask the question.
Absolutely.
So I'm
And do we have the power, or do we have enough capital to be able to have them come to this meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
I think that county management has a great deal of respect for the Board of Elections and Election Services and the work that's done here. And I know it is not their plan to ignore us, but I also believe that they're kind of focused on a very specific outcome, and we haven't been part of the discussion about that specific
Exactly.
outcome. And, you know, before the train arrives at the station, I at least want to talk to the engineer or the conductor,
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto.
and please bring your acuity to things, organizational, bureaucratic, and political to this party. Are there other stakeholders who should ask the question, why is this trip necessary? And ask for an answer. For example, the chairs of the two political parties,
Right.
who presumably are very happy with the outcome of the 75%, and they don't want to break that either. Probably more than anybody,
Right.
they appreciate what went into that outcome, and are there other stakeholders who could ask the question for us or with us that you think would be
Yeah.
productive?
Election integrity
Yeah, that's a good-
organizations, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
The parties, the chairs.
You guys? These guys.
absolutely.
The League of Women Voters.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, Common
Absolutely.
Cause.
All of those advocates.
They all sit down and ask, why is this trip necessary? This thing ain't broke. Why are you wanting to fix it?
And why are you thinking this proposal is a fix?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the other questions would be also, because, as Mr. Aceto said, we've got major turnout that we're very pleased with, and we expect it to continue. How is this plan going to accommodate future growth?
Well, how is it going to increase it, enhance it?
And
Yeah.
yes, it right.
We
We don't want
I
to
mean, I don't think it
maintain.
can
not just
accommodate
maintain.
it.
How
We wanna
does
do
this
better.
make it make what we build on what we have accomplished as a county?
Yeah, yes,
I have a question.
yeah.
Kathy?
As you're discussing staying here, what will that mean about where the equipment that we've been keeping in the warehouse will go if they've got plans for the warehouse already?
Well, the plan is to use 50 and 52 Cox Avenue for a housing project. And I don't think they're as far down the road on dealing with the warehouse component as they are with the personnel component. One of the difficulties with that is, when it comes election time, we use 50 Cox Avenue for more than just equipment. And I would need to see that accommodated. You know, I need to see how our war room fits into this limited space at 35 Woodfin, because I do not foresee establishing a war room at 35 Canoe Lane. I think that'd be a little too far off the beaten path. And it's just one of those things that,
Well, I don't
I mean, that's
know.
one of the questions
Think
I
so.
have. It's like, okay, so how are you going to accommodate this special need on election days?
To be honest, I think we'd be better off if we were all at Canoe Lane, except for maybe one little office for public outreach.
Wouldn't that be a
And
high?
with this plan.
That'd be a high class problem to be faced with that choice.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that yet, but yeah, I'd like that too.
But no, that actually gets down to another philosophical topic, and it's one that's actually kind of important to me. And I believe that government offices need to be at the county seat. They need to be in the heart of the community. They shouldn't be out in the hinterlands. And it's because those government offices are important to the community, and they deserve special geographic locations.
Well,
Now,
I-
that's
I-
just
you know.
my view on it, and you're talking to a guy who spent his career in Washington, D.C., which is all about those special places. And, but I think that the perception of government is enhanced by giving government better quarters. Now, I could be dead wrong on that. It's my bias. But I see a push around the county, around the country, to push government operations away from seats of power and downtowns, and that concerns me. It's done in the name of expense reduction, and I don't think it saves much of anything. And so when I see these pushes out to Woodfin, I just have a knee-jerk reaction in opposition to that sort of thing. Again, I can be sold, but someone's got to try to sell me first. And no one's even tried here. Director
I
Duncan.
feel like we're turning to Canoe Lane. Before we turn there, if that's where you want to go, I just wanted to see.
Mary Ann wants to go there.
Most of my staff is here. Is there anything that I missed? Any concerns that we want to make sure that the board understands?
I'd kind of be interested in, if it's not out of line or out of order, just to hear what some of the staff think about the office space at 35 Woodfin. If there's anything they like about it, what they don't like about it. Because I never have talked to the staff about that, but I'd just be, if any of them would be interested in saying that, but certainly not to put anybody on the spot.
You won't be quoted in the minutes.
You don't know that.
Hey,
No,
I will
I-
edit them out. Morgan, did you have an observation?
It was Karen's observation too.
Safety in numbers.
So Karen and I are the training team, right? And we struggled this year to get a training facility. It was hard, and Buncombe County didn't help us. We had to move twice. It was extremely difficult for us. And then with the hurricane, certainly not Buncombe County's fault, but we had to give up 2.5 weeks of training. So we struggled to complete training in time. We did it, but it was a struggle. And if we had a dedicated training space at 35 Woodfin, that would be very beneficial to us. And there's the potential for that. We've talked about it. There's that landing space, and Crane had mentioned it. But splitting that into a training space that would be dedicated to us when we needed it would be very helpful. And if not, then we need to find another space. So that's, if that could happen, that's a positive. And if not, then it's a double negative.
Okay, a question.
Mhm.
Does election services necessarily need to work in 35 Woodfin in order to use space at 35 Woodfin for training?
No, I mean, if we could reserve the space, absolutely not.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, if we could put that plan into action, and I'm hoping as the board that you all could sort of step that up for us.
Oh,
Like,
I'm aware of the struggles that y'all had
Yeah.
this year, and
Every year.
shared your disappointment that the county wouldn't help.
Yeah, so just if there's any development of a training space for us, it would be beneficial, and it could even be used on election day for the helpline, the call center. That would be helpful as well. So we're just trying to find space to where we can all be in the same room to answer phone calls and teach poll worker training. So
Okay.
those are my main concerns.
So what, I'm not sure that this is a reasonable ask, but it doesn't involve building new things in this. It's building that's already built. But the idea that we had discussed as a team was looking at the basement and the second floor. So right now, this area down here in the basement is what is securable for elections. So there's no other departments in there. We could reserve that as our space, and no one else would have access to it. The thought. So that's the area where, when we had initially had these plans, and Sally, you immediately identified it when we first had the plans, where it's like, well, why don't we have it up here on the second floor? And we asked for that, and that was turned down because this is seen as more enjoyable space up here. So the county wanted that, the person in charge at that time, who's not the same as is now, thought that should be touchdown space for everyone at like the whole county because that's better space. But if we could change something, having that as this whole space securable as elections, having these offices that are other departments, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Those could move downstairs. Now those are offices, downstairs are cubicles. That's something that that we've talked about before and that I bet staff would identify if asked. That is something we don't like. We don't like moving from
Sure.
office to cubicle, and there's not enough anyway. So right now, Ryan, for instance, has a space here and a space at the warehouse. He would not have a space at 35 because there's not room. So that we're making accommodations that way too. So, but if we were able to secure that space, not have those departments there,
You're talking about
and
on
then
what
turn
floor again?
and then turn half of this touchdown into training space. That's what Morgan is talking about.
Okay, go back up just a second, please. The 5 departments you're talking about are on the first floor or second floor? I
Second
mean?
floor.
Second floor,
Yeah.
see where we are? There's a pink and purple.
Right.
That's permitting and sanitation.
Yes,
Yeah.
those are the 2 departments, but 5 spaces.
Got it.
So when Karen did a tour, and I don't know if Morgan saw the space or not.
I have not, I'm just advocating.
Yeah, she felt that just taking, it's not even quite half of that space downstairs would be adequate to have a 25-person classroom down there. And I think that it does help seeing in person. That room was bigger than I thought that it was looking at this. That would be a better scenario for us. But it reduces overall touchdown space, which the intention, I believe, is for there to be touchdown space for the entire county to be able to
When
use.
you say touchdown space, you mean people that work at home to come in?
Correct.
Can the county give us a number of how many people that work at home actually come in?
They may be, I don't know. That's a,
Well,
No, I think that's a reasonable question, because they're reserving space.
Right.
And the question is, do we have that many people that are actually coming into the office that need a space? I mean, most of the people I know with the county that are working at home, they only come in if they are actually forced to for a meeting, and that's gonna be in the conference room. They do all their work on Zoom calls, and online meetings with individuals.
yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why we want to really understand what the overall drive is, because what if it is that management would like more people to come in, and so they're going to start asking for that, and so that means they need to make a space. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
if
know
they
that
don't
is.
have people that are coming in, then this space is being reserved for something that's not actually gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, I kind of got lost here. You're saying that what's called the flex shared space, the gray area, is touchdown space?
That's correct.
And where are you talking about a training
Ground floor.
In
on the ground floor?
Thank you, AK.
What, the one or
Yeah,
two
it's
spaces,
right there.
big
This
spaces?
space.
I see, okay.
On the right or on
Okay.
Yeah, like this whole space.
the, what's the
here.
left side, the two big spaces on the left side?
No, because this is the boardroom.
I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
right side.
The gray
This?
is
Yeah,
boardroom.
That's the boardroom.
Okay.
The
That we will
shared
share.
boardroom, that's modular, that's also a conference room.
My issue with this boardroom specifically isn't sharing it with other boards per se. I feel like we could work that. It's the idea that they want it to sometimes be conference rooms, so that it would like switch sometimes. And like I worry about how much time, talking about efficiency, how much time I would spend rearranging a boardroom.
Right.
And getting and going. And some of the shared stuff still will be the efficiency of like y'all's name tags for whoever's other board was in there or vice versa, some of
Yeah,
that.
then you also have the problem, anytime you have a shared space,
Yeah.
is the person coming in going to fix it to the way they want it? Are they gonna put it back when they leave? That's always,
Well, and again, our working board is different than so many of the others, so back to concerns.
back to
is-
concerns that,
yeah, that
that
we
in the
don't
time
know
of
when
year
we're
that
gonna
we're
have
maybe
board
having meetings daily.
Right.
they're gonna go, but we're supposed to have this time.
Yeah, we have it every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Something
Other?
else that we sort of touched on, but I just wanted to give like maybe a more example is on the first floor where we have like the front facing offices. Like I haven't seen it recently, but from what I hear, those little front desk areas are gonna be really small or like tight. And that just worries me both because we have a lot of different types of paperwork that we deal with, but also like as we're getting paperwork in, especially when we get busier, and that includes, I mean, currently absentee ballots, I don't know what else, where else we would be doing it, but that goes into that security of
Yeah.
how quickly do we then get those upstairs, or how quickly, and some of it I think would probably go into that candidate coordinator office that Nate and I will be sharing, but also how, what is all of that? So it goes into that security thing of like, I know we talked some about it going from the second floor to the boardroom, but there's also that for when
First
things
floor.
come into us, they are that extra step, and that's all shared with some other departments as well.
Is there any room down there on the first floor? You're talking about the first floor, right? The reception area. Is there any other room that you all can see that we might be able to use on that first floor to expand that?
We definitely talked about all of that, and that light purple area is
Uh-huh.
already built. That's sheriff's area, so there's no expanding into that. So it's only that gray, that more kind of gray where the lobby is, and there's a conference room. I think it's really tight.
It is
Uh,
extraordinarily
The
tight.
light blue, oh, that's all family justice work. Got it. Yeah.
Which that's Family Justice expanded out into the lobby.
I see.
That's that. And that's something, I mean, that's just aesthetics to me. You walk into the building and there's
Yeah.
a wall right in front
And
of
then
you.
Right.
when you look down from the mezzanine, that's the roof that you're
Yeah.
Yes,
the
that's it.
roof on that
That's correct.
expanded office space. It looks like the Dickens. The architect of that building would hate to see it today.
So it's really the only expansion would be into that gray area that you can see, and that's not much.
And
And I don't
there's
think
no
any more
space
building
there.
is going to be happening. Yeah, that's true.
There's no space. Just,
Got it.
just
Okay.
walk in the front door, you will see immediately. Those of you who have gone into 35 Woodfin in the past, when it was the Health Department or Family Justice Center or Register of Deeds Board of Elections, you'll remember a big open lobby. It does not exist. There is no open lobby at 35 Woodfin anymore. It's all office space. It's all been built out, or I should, built in. Infill, office infill.
I think Karen wants to say something.
I was just going to respond since Mr. Schultz had asked what staff thought. Talking about the cubicles that proposed for us. When you go upstairs and you see all of our offices, everybody has a lot of paper. It's a very paper-intensive business. And we've got far more stuff than can fit inside a cubicle area. So I do think the first thing that's going to happen is that it's going to be very cramped, it's going to be very crowded, and we're going to necessarily have to start putting things in other places, which again goes back to efficiency. I think when I think about being in a cubicle, I think about the recruiting and just being on the phone constantly, hour after hour after hour, calling people. And I wonder how annoying that will be for the person that's just over the other side of the cubicle from me. And for one of the staff, when we had our meeting the other day, was mentioning there's a lot of confidential and sensitive material too that we all handle, people's voter registrations,
Yes.
and when we're going through provisionals, we've got provisional ballots. Are we leaving that in a cubicle that feels a lot less secure than in an office? Certainly even having things up on your laptop screen. If you're in a cubicle area, it's just not as secure as it is if you've got an actual office with a closed doors.
I just have one question. If I was one of the planners, they would say something like, oh, in cubicles you can put shelves up and we can put 5 shelves per, cubicle, all that kind of business. Would that solve your problem or not?
Well, I know that.
My guess is it would not, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to see what you said.
I mean, I know that most people have a bookcase, but they've also got some sort of a table area where they spread out the documents and the papers that they need for part of their job. And it wouldn't be possible in the cubicle area to have a desk and that sort of a spread out area as well. You'd have to move to an open area to be able to do certain types of jobs.
Which would again cause some potential confidentiality issues and optics problems.
We're back to optics.
Right.
Because people people become aware of the fact that now that their information is being spread out on a desk that other people can see, you're back to this proving a negative. No, nobody saw that who shouldn't have. Well, show me that no one saw that it shouldn't have. This is kind of a form of voter intimidation, and that's another bumper sticker. No perceived voter intimidation, because that could be a big problem for the commissioners if that impression is allowed to take hold. But yeah, what are you going to put? Where are you going to put stuff and people be confident that their stuff is secure?
I just want to build on that a little bit. I also want to bring to your attention the fact that when we have our seasonal staff come, which we expand, they're going to be housed in that gray area. They're not going to be housed in the secure blue area that we've been given on the second floor. There's no room for them. So these folks are going to be taking voter registration forms, ballots, provisionals into that unsecure area, not unsecure, but where other departments have access to do their work. We have just not been given enough space that we can insulate even our seasonal staff within our secure areas. And that's just the way it is. I also want to bring the fact we are very fortunate that we have repeat seasonal staff that come back year after year. These are our rock stars. And right now, they've got desks that they're assigned to. They know they can come back year after year, and their desk is there with their things. Obviously not precious or anything that could walk away, but it's still their space. We're not going to be able to do that. They're going to have to be able to just come and go, and nothing stays. And this past year, we had 3 elections. These folks were here for quite a bit of months, and so they would not have that, because again, that gray area is touch area where anybody can come, sit down, claim it, work, and then leave. And that doesn't work, in my opinion, for our situation, our setup.
Now, these are issues for our stakeholders, right? Because those are our stakeholders have referred these workers to us.
The Democrats.
The Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and to some extent the other voter forward organizations. So once again, when we say these things, we create a record of it. But when some of you say these things, you've taken it by expressing this as your concerns for your people that you are sending to us, among other concerns. You put an amplifier on it that this board cannot.
I do want to clarify something about that, what was just said. So the plan was not, the plan as it is written, not by us, would have us, election services, be securely in the basement, and that's where our staff would be. So our staff, our seasonal staff would be separated from, so there's that.
So it's not even as good as being
like
next
if we
door,
want to main security, then that's how that would happen. We do think that during an election we could claim these spaces, but the downside is what Nagy said. If we do that and we claim those spaces because we want to be close to the people that we're supervising, then it will be with these two other departments having access. Or these people in those two. It's not the
Right.
whole department, it would be just those people who would have access.
Those are touchdown spaces for the county. Wouldn't anybody who could have a touchdown space have access?
On the second floor
That's
you're
a
talking
very
about?
good question. I don't know how
Or
they
on-
would control access.
On the ground floor or the second floor?
Second floor.
Yeah. Right.
Well, another question is, are they planning to control access? Or are they just planning to say, this is Touchstone, come whenever you want to?
If it
There
happens to be
is."
that expanding staff,
Yeah.
so be it. Yep.
Strikes me
Looks like
that
we have
the,
someone else that'd like to
oh, I'm
speak.
sorry.
Well, you're taller than we are.
You're looking down,
Mr. Whitney, what say you?
The boardroom. So the shared boardroom space on the ground floor, the way it's drawn on there, where it's like got the accordion door in between it, looks like, to break it down into two larger areas. That concerns me because, I mean, we need AV stuff in there, and I don't know how that's going to work. I haven't been able to. I don't think anybody's been able to get an answer on that. And the level, professional AV setup in there, kind of how it was at the old council, county commissioner chambers.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the new one. But I mean, I don't know if you all know this. I put all this AV stuff together. And I majored in communications in college for a little bit, but that's my only credentials. So yeah, having something that's easy and
Does it need to be portable then, in this kind of setup?
no, it just needs to be
A
set
space.
spot
Right.
where everything's there and it needs to stay there, kind of thing. And it all is tied in, and you just hit a button,
Right.
kind of thing.
Are you talking about like a closet that something stays in, or are you talking
Like
about
you
a
got this
platform,
here
or
over here.
Yeah.
your world over there that's,
Yeah.
Whitney World, that's, yes,
Except professional.
yeah.
And on top of that, you want the camera that will show this panel.
Right.
But you also want a camera that shows the audience. You also want to be able to show what's on the screen here. And if you're going to the time and expense of creating a conference room, a boardroom, then you build this stuff in.
Does the space plan defeat that, or is that part of the post?
Or does anybody know?
Is that a
You win.
specification, or does this plan prevent that or defeat it in some way as you see it, or what?
I think that's what AK and Devin are kind of saying. So this is built to be modular. So it's built to accommodate different sized boards and be a meeting space. So that means all this stuff moves around, and so that makes us nervous. How are we going to have good AV in a modular space?
Right.
How many
That's where
other
we're
boards in
concerned.
the county televise their meetings?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
I would
Commissioner.
like to ask that question, because if they don't, then they don't care. And it's gonna be us that has that requirement, which they don't have. And I don't know the answer either.
Yeah, I think that they would figure it out. I just don't know. The latest installment of remote meetings that can be streamed is at 200 College. Every time we have a meeting in there, which is a modular space, so all those tables move around, we have problems with the AV, and there's you can hear out, but we can't talk in. So someone on the other end can't hear what's going on in the room. So that's the example that I have of what has happened in a modular meeting space. So you know, they're kind of, trust us, it'll be fine. But that's not what I've seen built.
Well, and when you have different people coming in and dealing with AP, like, you don't know what the last person did.
Exactly.
So Devin might be having to spend a lot of time to make it work because this
Right.
person.
Similar
Jerry-
to what you were talking about with just the configuration of the room.
Yeah.
Just moving chairs around.
Yeah.
Right.
How many bumper strips do you think we have here, Ms. Moore? I figured that, you know, at least a half dozen. But what I'd like to do is work with AK, develop a list, and then ask AK to circulate that amongst the board members. Everybody reality check that thing. We are going to meet on Monday, and we can, you know, briefly, you know, touch back on that list, see if we're all of them the same mind on that, and then send it on up the chain.
Well, and then the strategy of what are the next chess moves? On Monday, we need to, I think, really dig into that part as well, because this whole idea of how do we get the county, how do we get the bosses here, and when do we get the bosses here, and who needs to be here that are our stakeholders for that meeting with the bosses.
Yeah.
So I think those are all strategic pieces that we need to talk about by Monday as well.
That's
I
a
think your
great idea.
stakeholders are going to see some things that we don't,
That's
Exactly.
correct.
and we're going to be shocked when we hear
No,
what they
that's-
are.
No, that's
So the sooner they get a hold of the bumper stickers, the better.
fair enough. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for focusing on this so intently. I think in the end, we're going to end up with superior communications with the county than we currently have. And regardless of how this turns out, that will be a plus.
It's a great opportunity.
Yes, it is.
It is. Whew. Director Duncan, did you have any more on this subject?
Did all staff get a chance to give input that they wanted?
Speak now or
No.
speak Monday.
Yes.
But if you speak now, we can get you on the list of
You get on the back of
our
Jake's
letter to
Subaru.
Santa Claus on what we want here. Oh wait, that was the last meeting. We did the letter to Santa Claus. Okay, sorry. All right.
Did you want to do minutes?
Next.
You wanna do the minutes?
Minute. Oh, that's right. Steve's here. All right, colleagues, we're going to go back to item 2 on the agenda. Everyone have a chance to take a look at the minutes? Without objection, we will approve the minutes of the meeting of December 18th. And hearing no objection, those minutes are approved. Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday in this room at 3:30 p.m. And I hope to see everybody here. Is there any more, well, does anyone have any questions or comments for the board today? Thanks again for coming. Kathy?
Yes, I mean, Steve made the point about getting either Democratic Party, Republican Party. Are you going to invite them?
Yeah, we'll reach out and let them know what we're discussing and,
And on the 13th, they can come.
yeah. And, you know, they will end up seeing this list of questions and concerns that we have because we're going to discuss that list on Monday. Good. Any more
You wanna
business?
bring friends.
And-
friends.
Please. Hey, Victoria. Did you have anything you wanted to add to the list? Okay. And Justin says just more absentee ballots, please. Yes, let's her seal. All right, if there is no more business to come before this board today, the meeting is adjourned at 3:55. Thank you, everybody, and
Thank
we
you,
will
Mr.
see you
Quinn.
on Monday. Meanwhile,